guess first going into that, Danny O'Brien, obviously the quarterback's coach coming over from Penn State. That was the news last night, and it was mixed reaction, honestly. When you go out and you hire an unexperienced offensive coordinator in Ty Howle, I think a lot of people were really leaning into the fact that you could go out and maybe pair that with a more experienced quarterback coach. But at the same time, what experienced quarterback coach most likely is not going to be calling the plays? I think that's something that's definitely going to be sort of an interesting dynamic to work with. So that kind of makes sense that they go out and get Danny O'Brien. I think it's really interesting. He was a 2010 ACC Rookie of the Year at Maryland, playing under one James Franklin, who was his offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. So he had an interesting playing career, was obviously had a great first season, dealt with some injuries. I think he had 5 touchdowns in a game with Torrey Smith one time. But, some career injuries, transfers. But that's obviously the connection with James Franklin. So finished his career. And once he finished, I think he joined with Penn State as an analyst. At one point, he was living above the garage at James Franklin's house. So they're obviously very, very close. Became the grad assistant and worked his way up to the quarterback coach. Franklin has had very positive remarks about him on the record about thinking he's a rising star. Obviously, like I said, lived above his garage, it sounds like, at one point. So they're obviously very close, and, people will do with that what they will. But someone who's been rising in the ranks, and you can point to Drew Allar, and that's been a lot of the discussion over on the message board that I was promoting earlier. And it's been a very lively discussion today and throughout the week, honestly, about Drew Allar and his progression and how a lot of that fell under, obviously, O'Brien's tutelage. And you can point to Virginia Tech's quarterback play of late and ideal quarterback play and say Drew Allar still was a very, very quality college quarterback. Drew Allar was very complimentary of O'Brien on multiple occasions in my research today. Said he, made it sort of slow down, just be able to read the coverages, sort of be that bridge the gap. So someone who's been doing it now for a couple seasons, but he really sort of started as that in-game liaison between the offensive coordinator, Mike Yurcich, I believe, who was up there, and then obviously building connection with the quarterbacks on the sideline. That was when Bo Pribula was still there with Allar as well. So it'll be really interesting. Obviously, he's a younger guy. I believe he's only 33, so, can relate to them. But it'll be very interesting. And at the same time, just even spitballing here, thinking about it, do they go and, he had an assistant quarterback coach, also Trace McSorley, someone might be familiar with, obviously, guy who has a very song written about him, but also had a good career up at Penn State, became the assistant quarterback coach this year. Is that someone they look to follow down? Because I think you'll see some more trickle down from the Penn State coaching staff as well. But definitely when the O'Brien news came out, there was a lot of notes and reactions there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think, the quarterback coach hire is really important, but honestly, the quarterback you go out and get is going to be the most important. I feel like I've been beating that drum, and it's really no secret about you can only go as far as your quarterback. And, when that portal window opens on January 2nd, VTScoop.com, those message boards, when the portal palooza opens up and you get the board out in front of you, that's going to be a very, very interesting place to be, as you can go as far as your quarterback and you don't have to look too far. Look to the season with Kyron Drones and see, took him about as far as Virginia Tech could have gone this year. And it's going to be the biggest emphasis point to get that position right. And this is a guy that obviously Franklin is very familiar with. I keep going back to it. I look forward to hopefully having one or either on the show and talking about the anecdote of living above his garage, because that's pretty interesting. You've heard pretty crazy GA stories, but moving in with Franklin for a time there is a pretty interesting note. And we'll see how it plays out, because that room is going to have massive overhaul and he's going to have his fingerprints all over it. So that'll be really interesting.